curators, welcome back for another finished pattern roundup. This week I am talking to you about my newly finished Misurina Tee. This is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter that I recently completed like a week ago, and I thought I would sit down and do a rundown of the pattern, kind of the nitty-gritty details of it, as well as some of the modifications that I made to suit my body and my preferences, and maybe they'll help you as you create your garments in the future if you're knitting this one or another one and you're interested in modifying your knits and taking more control over the fit and shape of your garment. As I said, this is the Misurina Tee. It is a fingering weight pattern, and I believe it is written originally to be made out of a merino linen blend, like a 90-10 merino linen blend yarn. However, I did not use that, so I guess that's modification number one. So I knit mine out of some Shibui yarn. Now, Shibui did announce earlier this year that they are retiring, and so unfortunately, unless you're really lucky and can find it at your local yarn shop still, this yarn is no longer available. So I knit this out of the Shibui twig. That is what the label looked like. And this is a blend of 46% linen, 42% recycled silk, and 12% wool. So it does have a little bit of wool content to it. However, it is predominantly warm weather friendly fibers. As you know, if you're a regular viewer, I live in Florida. It's very warm. And so for me, especially if I'm going to be making a summer garment, it has to be made out of a warm weather friendly fiber. I have a wool, like a traditional 80-20 wool nylon blend shirt that I never wear because even in the wintertime, I'm sweating in it. So this is listed as a sport weight yarn on the label. However, I definitely think it's more like a fingering. I can see why they would list it as sport weight. It is a little bit plump, but I think that's more due to the nature of the fibers and not the thickness of the actual yarn. So this is what it looks like. And let me see if I can give you guys a close-up of the yarn. So that's kind of what the yarn looks like. So that's the yarn. So because I did substitute the recommended yarn, my gauge was off from the pattern. The pattern is written that 20 stitches is equal to 4 inches. My 20 stitches was closer to 3.5 inches, but I did like the fabric that I was getting at my gauge swatch, and I think since this yarn has such a lower wool content to it, the color work would have looked funky. So I think if I would have gone up a needle size, that would have been too loose to achieve this nice crisp color work here to get the well-defined flowers. So what I did to account for the loss in inches that I was getting with my gauge is I went up a pattern size. I didn't do the math to make sure. No, I did do the math. I was just getting ready to say I didn't do the math to see if it would, like, what my finished garment size would be, but I do think I actually did the math. And I have not that much ease in here. It's a little bit smaller than I think I thought it would be. I don't have my numbers or measurements in front of me because I did it really quickly on my phone before casting on to make sure that was the right size. That being said, I love the fit of this. If you've been here a while, you know that I'm not a huge fan of a lot of positive ease, especially in like a t-shirt like this. So I'll stand up and move my chair real quickly. So here it is. As you can see, like I said, not a whole lot of ease on the sides. It's nice and fitted right underneath the underarms there. And overall, I am really pleased with the fit. Another modification I did in regards to fit is I added darts to the back of my garment. So when I tried this on about halfway through, I noticed that I had a lot of extra fabric in the back of the garment here. So I decided to add some shaping darts in the back. I had already knit about 2 inches when I had divided my sleeves and gone to knit in the round. So I knit to the end of the ball I had. That was about 2 inches of body length under my sleeve. Tried it on, thought there's just a little bit too much fabric in the back. And so what I did is I went back to my gauge swatch and I said, all right, for every 20 stitches, that's 3.5 inches. So I divided 20 by 3.5. That told me for every roughly 6 to 7 stitches, 6 to 7 stitches equals roughly 1 inch of fabric. So to figure out where to place my darts, I knew that the end of round was in the middle of the bag. So I divided the number of stitches on the back of the garment in half, counted halfway over on each side and placed a stitch marker. And that is where I then decreased on each side of those stitch markers. I believe I decreased about 14 stitches in total, and then I also decreased 1 stitch on the sides about halfway down, just to give a very, very slight nip and tuck along the waist as well. And I have to say, I love the fit. I love that I don't have a bunch of extra fabric in the back, kind of like a circus tent. So you can see, hopefully, how it just kind of tapers in a little bit towards the back. And so that kind of solved the problem of the excess fabric in the top or in the back of the garment. Other than that, the only other real modification that I did on this pattern is I didn't knit the sleeves to full length. So as I tried it on, I really liked this capped sleeve length, and living in the South and knowing how hot it is and going through a record-breaking heat wave right now, I just thought, let's just add some nice little demure sleeves. And I think it goes with the changes I've made to the garment. The silhouette kind of has, I would say, a little bit of a retro feel to it. So I decided to go with a nice little demure sleeve. So I knit about 6 or 7 rounds after picking up this underarm stitches, and then I knit about a 1/2 inch of 1x1 twisted rib and repeated that on each side. Like most projects, I used, I think it's Jenny's Twisty Bind Off for all of my hems, and those just give like a nice loose but not super flared bind off on the sleeves. So if I had not have done those modifications to the sleeves, I believe the patterns written, they probably would have ended closer to here on my arms, but it's your sleeve. You can dictate the sleeve length that you want. And with that, you can also dictate the body length. So I did do this a little bit cropped. It ends right at kind of the end of my natural waist. I'll stand up once again. And so you can see here, if I get on my tiptoes, this is my waist right here. So it's hitting at the top of my hip, the bottom of the shirt, and you can see here even, so there's about 1 inch from my waistband to here. So I really like this length because I also these are trousers, but I like to often wear high-waisted skirts to work. I just don't have one in a color that I love with this particular color combination, but with these high-waisted linen pants, I absolutely love this outfit together. And I feel like there's a little bit of shine in the linen that I have on, and it picks up the little bit of the shine in the silk and in the fiber. The flower motif is pretty enjoyable. It's not too hard. There are a few long floats, and it's a little bit fussy catching the floats in the cable detail here. However, I found that with the cable, I wouldn't say it's fussy. It almost was easier to catch the float in the cable because there's 2 or 3 rest rows between each cable row. And with that, with the twisting, it almost makes it easier to hide the float in there, as opposed to some of these other floats, you can kind of see them poking through in there. So I actually like the cable for masking the float. However, the actual catching of the float while working the cable could be a little bit annoying sometimes. Those rows did not fly as fast as the other rows. You can see there is the slightest little bit of lace detail in here. So it's kind of what I would call a kitchen sink pattern. You've got lace, you've got color work, and you've got cables all going on at the same time. However, if you just take them repeat by repeat, nothing's too hard. If you're a beginner, don't let that intimidate you. They're all very simple lace motifs, as well as the color work. Just take it row by row. It's knitting by numbers, paint by numbers. You'll be fine. And it's just a 2/2 cable. So once again, really simple techniques worked in there. So just because it's in a garment doesn't mean it's harder than if you were working it flat in a scarf. It's the same principle. You're just working in the round and doing some increases along the way while you're going. So yeah, I have to say this was a really fun, enjoyable knit once I cast it on. It really didn't work on anything else, so it flew off my knees. I have to say this was a really fun potato chippy knit. Once I cast it on, I didn't work on anything else. It just flew off my needles. And now I have another staple in my wardrobe, which makes me super happy. And one of the other things about this pattern that I really love is I feel like these flowers look like the flowers from Super Mario Brothers. I'll put in a picture right here. Does anyone else see it? Because every time I see it, I think of when Mario runs around. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But yeah, I have to say, on the whole, this was a really enjoyable pattern. It's, like I said, it's by Caitlin Hunter, so you kind of know what you're getting in terms of pattern writing and her style and sizing and all of that good stuff. I do have to say, with Caitlin's circular yokes in particular, she does sometimes, and I get it, you're accommodating bust, but I know now from having knit quite a few of her patterns to expect that extra fabric in the back, and so now I know to account for it. I also think that's just part of my body and my measurements. I tend to carry more weight in the front. Trust me, your girl's got back fat, don't get me wrong. It just all like slides forward, so I don't carry as much bulk in the back as I do as in front, like with my belly, for example. All right, you guys, I think that is about it for this pattern roundup video. If you have any questions about this pattern, or if you have any questions about what else I did to modify it, although I think I covered everything, or how I like to style it, which I'll put some video footage in at the end of this video, and or it will have been overlaid the screen while I talk about it, let me know down below. Yeah. If you enjoyed today's episode, leave me a comment down below. Why can I not talk, you guys? This is not just a when the camera records. Lately, whenever I'm speaking, just garbage pronunciation comes out of my mouth. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's episode, I would greatly appreciate it if you could leave a comment down below. Hit a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, consider hitting that button. It just helps push this very very small channel out to other people. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed today's little mini-sode pattern rundown, and I hope you enjoy whatever you're making. I hope it brings you joy. Until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye.